Hey guys, it's Lance at Max Sound Solutions, and today I am going to, out of sheer boredom pretty much, because we're in this pandemic together, and here I am in my studio, and I just felt like giving this a try. So I already recorded 32 tracks to my iPad Pro, but after sort of checking the read-write speeds of the phone and the iPad Pro, they're not that different. So I thought I'd give it a whirl and record 48 tracks, 24-bit, 48K to my iPhone X 10 and see if it can handle it. And I'm using an app called Audio Evolution Mobile. And that is like only $9 or $8 on the App Store. Dirt cheap, folks. And so we're going to see if it can handle it. What's different about it than the more expensive $50 DAWs on the App Store is it allows you to record unlimited tracks. You know, if your phone can't handle it, that's your problem, but it doesn't limit you. So I'm able to plug in my Midas M32R and route 48 tracks, individual tracks, into the phone. I have a screaming child in the background. So I'm going to show you how to set this up if you're interested. If not, you can jump to the end of the video and find out what the result is, but I'm not going to tell you now. Okay, let's get to the test. Okay, so basically because I don't have a live band in my studio, I am using Pro Tools to send 48 independent channels into my Midas M32R. You see they're all coming into the console there. Then I am sending them out of that little box to the right called the Clark Technique DNX 9630, and that is going USB into the iPhone. And so now I'm going to hit record on the iPhone, and it takes a second. There we go. We are now recording 48 tracks on an iPhone, 48K, 24-bit. So if you click on the next button, you get a different view here. You get your channel view with all your tracks. And you can slide that black bar at the top there, and it slides through all your channels. And it's basically your mixing view. Then you've got back to your timeline with all your 48 tracks and your waveform views, which you can scroll through. And that white line, it's selecting which track I'm clicking on. And on the left, it says track 48 because I've now selected track 48. And you can also zoom in. So, you know, I did a lot of this during a recording, and it recorded fine. I didn't crash. I didn't have a major error. And that is the CPU meter down there on the right. And that shows you sort of how much of the CPU of the phone that you're using. So as you can see, we're totally in a good zone there. We're not getting near overloading it whatsoever. So you could probably record, who knows what, maybe even 64 tracks if you were connected to a MADI interface. Okay, so now you know the answer. You can record 48 tracks to an iPhone 10 or better. You might want to get an app called Performance Test, and that will give you the ability to check the read-write speeds of your phone. iPhone 10 gets about 500 megabytes read and write speeds. Now, for those of you who want to know how to set this up with the app and the phone, I'm going to do that now. And those of you who don't care, I'll see you later. But please subscribe to my channel anyway. Give me the thumbs up or the thumbs down. Thanks. Okay, so moving forward, you need to download Audio Evolution Mobile from the App Store. And it is cheap. It is so cheap, it seems criminal. I think it's like $7. And it also does MIDI and everything else that most of the other DAWs do. So aside from the app, of course, you need to have an audio interface with a USB connection. And you need to have Apple's USB to Lightning dongle or their camera kit, which would be better because that gives you the ability to power your phone while you're connected via USB. Otherwise, you're running on your battery, which is very risky. Okay, so now we're looking at my iPhone. I've launched Audio Evolution. This is what it looks like. You start off with a clean slate whenever you launch the app. And it's a good idea to be plugged into your interface before you launch the app. Okay, so the first thing we're going to do is go over to the preferences, which is where it says more in the upper right hand corner there. You tap on that, and then we scroll down to preferences. And the first thing we're going to set is our sample rate. You always want that to match your interface, otherwise you will get pops and clicks and errors. So my board is set to 48K, and I'm setting the app to 48K. Under user interface, they added a new option, which is to ask number of audio tracks. So when you're adding a track, it's not just one at a time and you have to do it 48 times to get 48 tracks. You can now just put the number 48 in and boom, it adds 48 tracks to your session. So these guys listen to user requests and update the app pretty often, which is great. And another cool feature, this is where you turn on show CPU usage. And as we did my test record with the 48 tracks, I showed you where that's located in the lower right-hand corner of the interface. And I highly recommend having this turned on. Okay, next up are the very important audio preferences. And the first one at the top is software monitoring. When you go to record your first recording, if you don't have this option turned on in the preferences, you're not going to hear any audio coming through your phone. Now there's different ways to monitor the audio that you're sending into the phone. For me, I am able to bring back the outputs in stereo, all my tracks, 48 tracks, stereo return into my console via aux returns 1 and 2. So I can then solo the aux returns and listen to all the audio that's passing through the phone. And now I can go back to the app and I can hit solo on the snare, I can hit solo on the vocal, and make sure that the audio that's coming through the phone sounds like it should. Next is your buffer size. I like to set this at a high setting because it taxes the CPU less. The lower the buffer you set, the higher CPU usage you're going to have. And when you're just recording, it's much safer with a big track count to set this at a high number. You would never want to have it at 32 or 64 when you're recording a huge amount of tracks. You basically want to have it set to 32 or 64 when you're doing an overdub, if the phone can even handle that low of a buffer setting. But again, the lower the buffer, the more CPU you're going to use, and you could cause the app to crash. And next up, we're going to select our recording resolution, which I'm setting to WAV. And finally, recording file format, which I'm setting to 24-bit. So now we're going to create a project. We're going to go up to the project menu, which is on the upper left-hand corner by the arrow there, and create new project. One thing that's very cool is you can save a template, so you don't have to go create a 48-track recorder every time you do this. You can create a template, and then you can create project from template, and boom, your whole setup is ready to go. All you got to do is name your tracks. But seeing as we're doing this from scratch, I'm going to hit the plus sign on the lower right-hand corner and select how many tracks I want to add, in this case 48 tracks. Okay, so here you have your first track, you have a mute button, you have a solo button, you got your record button, your pan, your volume slider, and then under that you have 5 little dots, and each dot does a different view on your channel strip. So I'm going to move to the second dot, and that is where your basic EQ is on your channel strip. The third dot, you have 2 effect sends, and the fourth dot are your inserts. So you can go in there and add up to 3 different inserts on one channel strip. So moving to the fifth and final dot, this is the view to set up your outputs and inputs. Your output is on the top, which is set to master, basically channels 1 and 2, which I have returning back on my board, so I can actually hear what's going through the phone. And secondly, the input, which I'm going to set to channel 1. So you click on the input tab and slide down and get to mono input 1. Yes, you can record in stereo tracks if you want to, but seeing as I'm doing an individual multi-track, all my tracks are going to be mono. So you have to do this for every channel, and it takes time. That's why setting up a template is so great, because you do this once and you can create a new session from your template. So I'm just going through setting all my inputs to match the track numbers 1 through 48, while leaving all my outputs to 1 and 2, which are basically your iPhone outputs 1 and 2. But you can add more mix buses. So you could literally output 48 independent channels out of your phone into your board and use it for a virtual sound check. Above the inputs is the outputs. Not sure why they did it that way. So you see where it says master. Master is basically outputs 1 and 2 of your phone. A really cool thing about Audio Evolution is it's very easy to get your WAV files off your iPhone. It's as simple as just dragging a folder onto your desktop, and I'm going to show you how to do that. So to get the files off, we connect our iPhone with our Lightning cable to our Mac and access the Files tab. Click the little arrow next to the Audio Evolutions folder. That opens it up. And then we can drag the projects folder onto our desktop or a connected hard drive. Apple does not allow you to access folders within folders on the Files tab here, so we have to drag all of our projects. If we had multiple sessions on the phone, we'd have to copy all of them off at once. So it's a good idea to keep that very organized. And we're getting about 30 megabytes per second copying the files off the iPhone, so it'll take a little while to get these 16, 17 gigs off of there. So once it's on your desktop, you go into your projects folder that you copied, and you'll see your sessions. And then you go in there, and you would think your recordings would be possibly in the recordings folder. That's for mixes that you do within the app. Instead, you go to the samples folder, and that's where all your tracks, all your WAV files are located. Now you can move all your WAV files into whatever DAW you choose to mix with. One last note I'm going to say is it's important to stay organized. One of the things you should do once you set up your session initially is go in there and name all of your tracks. I still like to keep them numbered. So I do 01 kick drum, 02 snare, and you basically just have to hold your finger on the track name where it says track 1, and then this little menu pops up. It's a little tricky, you have to hold your finger just right, but this allows you to name all of your tracks before you record. So thanks for watching. Please subscribe to my channel, give me the thumbs up or the thumbs down, you know what to do. And we'll see you on the next Mac Sound Solutions video.